Hi, welcome back for True Colors audiobook. This is chapter 25. At the end of the last episode, we left Cassie spreading out her laundry on the grass to dry when an ominous and silent shadow of a man crept up behind her. Alone and vulnerable, she became terrified. Let's join her now at that patch of grass.
True Colors, Chapter 25. I knelt there breathless, weightless. The brilliant golden sun created a corona around the pale blonde hair of the tall figure standing above me. My brain was certain my eyes were deceived, but had my ears been likewise fooled? He had spoken my name, or a form of it only one man ever used. He held a hand down to me, but I could not move to take it. I trembled beneath this ghost. He bent low to take hold of my arms and raise me up to stand before him. Sassy? Is it really you? Eric, how could... I thought you were dead. And I thought you must have moved west long ago. I can't believe you're... Our arms surrounded each other in a burst of overpowering emotion. We both tried to speak, but our sentences were punctuated by repeated hugs and cries of disbelief. My hands read the contours of his face like those of a blind person becoming intimately familiar with a new friend. His cheeks and temples were hollowed out. Indeed, his 6-foot, 175-pound frame was leaner by at least 30 pounds. But his china blue eyes remained unclouded, and his toothy smile had lost none of its mirth. He had a tough time convincing me it was really you who was imprisoned in a southern stockade. Who did? Him. He turned and gestured toward a gray-uniformed officer who stood with one arm resting against the saddle of a black horse. His smile, his entire visage, reflected his pleasure as he watched our joyful reunion. My elation over Eric was intensified at the sight of Michael. Despite my not wanting to let go of my cousin, an urge to run to my husband pulsed through me. The desire was heightened when he lifted the reins and prepared to mount. Eric sensed the tormenting restraint in me. "Go," he urged with his hand as well as his voice. "Michael, wait." He removed his foot from the stirrup and turned to me. When I reached him, I opened my mouth to thank him, to tell him, to ask him, but my speech had yet to catch up with circumstances. There wasn't a single bottle of glycerin and cucumber lotion to be found in all of Richmond, so I had to settle for the next best thing. Merry Christmas, Cassie. He regathered the reins and turned toward midnight. Must you go? He mounted, saying, "This moment belongs to the two of you. I'll come back tomorrow." He took hold of the reins of the horse Eric had ridden and trotted away. Eric came and placed a loving arm around my shoulder. "Come, Sassy, let's walk. We've much to talk about." "We certainly do. Like, what happened to you, and where have you been?" My disbelieving eyes fixed on his face as we ambled around the compound. "Eric, first I need to tell you something. It's about Greg." "I know, Sass. I asked that Confederate colonel who seemed so smitten with you for any news you had of Greg. He was hesitant to tell me, thinking it unfortunate that I hear it from a stranger, but I pressed him until he finally broke it to me. If you and Greg had been assigned together the way you planned, you could very well be gone for real, too. As it is, he gave his life fighting for this nation, while I sat out the war." "Sat it out? You were shot at Bull Run." "The 27th wasn't engaged in the actual battle. We were in retreat at Centerville. There was skirmishing during the day and when covering our army as they retreated. But I never saw a single gray thread, never fired a single shot. But they saw my threads and fired. I felt a searing pain above my right ear, then blood started trickling down my neck." "And you don't think that qualifies you as having had a part in the fight for your country?" "But I was never in the fight. We were retreating. Oh, Sassy, I can't expect you to understand. You're a woman. And glad of it, if being a man means you feel shame for having gotten shot in the head too early in the war to do your side any more good. You are no sunshine patriot, Eric. You did everything required of you. Because it was only for a couple of months instead of years doesn't make you any less courageous. It's not about courage. It's something else. It's about... He couldn't finish, and didn't need to. I knew dozens of men who had been captured before they had a chance to lose life or limb. Even some with severe wounds spoke of guilt over not having fought on, or for not dying with their comrades. I bemoaned the idea that this was another of those male concepts no man can fully explain, no woman fully understand. Anyway, I lost a couple of months after I was wounded, slipping in and out of consciousness. It left me so weak, and I had some oppressive headaches. I still get them once in a while. When I was strong enough, I wrote you some letters. Did you get none of them? I shook my head. I was living in Alexandria by then, but my mail was to have been forwarded by the tenants I leased out the farms to. Either they never received them or neglected to forward them. Neither did they answer the letters I wrote them after the battle at Gettysburg. I'm afraid they're not the most responsible of people. I'm not even sure they're still there. At any rate, when no replies came, I assumed you were long gone, living out there in that wild west, sustaining yourself on tree barks and melted snow, you and Mandy teaching those Injuns a thing or two about Eastern manners. I laughed at the images he conjured. So where have you been held all this time? Did Michael give any indication of how he found you? I was initially taken to a prison hospital, and when I recovered sufficiently, I was transferred to Liggins Prison in Richmond, an old warehouse. How he found me there, he didn't say. I do know one thing. My transfer here didn't come cheap. What do you mean? They had me in a waiting room outside the commandant's office, and I overheard him and your colonel talking. The commandant laughingly said that despite it being Christmas, he saw no reason why he should give away something he could just as easily sell, and was glad Byron had come to see it that way. Michael paid to have you brought here? I don't think he intended for either of us to find out. How much? He looked directly into my questioning eyes. I guess you have the right to know. It was $200. 200? Imagine how I felt. Some total stranger, a Confederate officer no less, paying that kind of money for the privilege of taking me 7 miles down the road. I demanded an explanation, and that's when he told me the story of you and him and the blunder of your being brought here. He told you who he is? What he does? We rode those 7 miles slowly and stopped often. He explained a few things and knew you'd tell me more. I warned him that he'd better be discerning in what he told me, as if he wouldn't be anyway, because despite his doing this for us, for which I am most grateful, if my chance to escape should ever come and I make it all the way north, I'd feel compelled to report what I know. He agreed that was reasonable. What seems unreasonable is why he would spend $200 to bring you here. A smart girl like you can't figure that out? He did it for you. I got the distinct impression he prizes you a whole lot more than $200 worth. I sighed and walked a few steps ahead of my cousin. What are you thinking, Sassy? He couldn't have told you everything. I bet he didn't tell you how he refused to take me to Richmond to live with him because his beloved superiors might think he was trying to free me. To live with him? Then I can assume he also failed to mention the fact that before he left Washington, we were married. His jaw fell and stuck. I explained how Michael convinced me of the need for secrecy so that his mission could go forward, and how he now must maintain it to thwart any suspicion by his Confederate superiors. It's best this way. The marriage may very well end in annulment anyway. Annulment? Secretive as this marriage is, it's still legal, but it's based on fraud, Eric. And besides, well, the wedding took place just an hour before he was called to leave, and we never... His hand crossed his mouth in an attempt to suppress a smile. Yes, well, I do declare, Sassy, that has to be the first time I've ever known you to do something halfway. It's not funny, Eric. And I guess that explains the strained look on the man's face. Eric! That robust laugh of his came forth, then he held up his hands to stem my wrath. I'm sorry, Sassy, but it's been almost 3 years since I've been able to tease you. I couldn't resist. I turned in a huff and started to tramp away, but Eric took hold of my arm and held me still. Please forgive me. I know these have been turbulent months for you, and I shouldn't have made light of it. It's just that, for some reason, and I don't understand it myself, 'cause Rebs aren't exactly my favorite people either, I like the guy, Sassy. Maybe he's duped me as flawlessly as he has everyone else, but I believe the man loves you. The question is, do you still love the man? I stepped past him and entered the deepening shadow of the stockade wall. Which man are you speaking of, Eric? The man who paid $200 to ransom you and bring you to me? Or the man who mounted his horse and rode off to Richmond to continue doing his utmost to bring our country to disintegration? There are times I'm with him that I'd be willing, if he would only give the word, to run off to any spot of his choosing on the planet and forget any of this ever happened. He's sensitive to my needs, compassionate, and despite the circumstances has taken on the responsibilities of a husband. He even was willing to take a bullet for me when in a daze I ran outside the compound the day I learned about Greg. Then there are the times of unsparing anger between us. I catch him in another lie, or he accuses me of trying to have him caught and executed. He wants me to trust him, but he has no trust in me, which is probably as it should be. I've been telling a few lies to him myself lately. I set my hand against one of the multitude of giant posts that formed the walls that had become a familiar part of my existence. I looked upward, following the length of the rough-hewn wood all the way to the sharply pointed tips that strove to pierce the sky like sprung arrows. This wall is thick, and it's high, and it's strong, but it is vapor compared to the wall Michael has built between us. This one can be scaled or burned or, given enough force, torn down. It is conquerable. But despite feelings I can't deny I still have for him, I see no way to conquer the wall, or the chasm, as Michael perceives it, that has formed between us. Eric shook his head. Love and mistrust. The two just can't abide together. No, they cannot, just as Michael and I cannot.
It was not unheard of in the Civil War that soldiers were presumed dead and even declared dead when they were not. What a glorious reunion those men must have had with their families, like it was for Cassie and Eric. Join them next time as they and Michael continue to catch up, fill in some time gaps, as Eric goes through a rough patch, and as the pieces of the mysterious and conspiratorial kiss that Reagan gave Cassie begin to fall into place. If you like this video and the others, please subscribe to the channel and press the like button. I'll see you next time.